Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today. In my session, I'm going to be talking about Dynamics 365 Sales and LinkedIn Sales Navigator together. But before we get started, we want to make sure that we say a quick thank you here to our sponsors, and that's ScriptRunner, DQ Global, Proximo, Redspire, Agilicis, and Hitachi Solutions. So thank you guys so much for sponsoring this great event. I also wanted to mention that anybody who's using social media to talk about this event, make sure that you use the hashtag Scottish Summit 2021, please, right? That would be great. Thank you guys so much. Now, before we get going, I would like to introduce myself to you guys real quick. My name is Dian Taylor. I am a Microsoft Business Applications MVP, and I work for RSM as a pre-sales director. I've been working with the application since about 2011. Time flies when you're having fun. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, connect with me on LinkedIn, or check out my website or my YouTube channel. I try to upload new content every week. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So here are some of the items that I'm going to be talking about today. We're going to discuss the configuration of LinkedIn Sales Navigator and also how you need to configure that from Dynamics 365, because there's going to be two places, as you'll notice. We'll talk about data validation, what that is, how that works, data synchronization, smart links, the ability to create a contact from a LinkedIn profile and push that to Dynamics 365. Then we have an embedded Sales Navigator widget that you can put on forms. I'll show you how to do that as well. And then lastly, we'll talk about some of the pricing options as well. All right, so let's dive right in. So most of you probably have heard of the integration between Dynamics Sales and LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but you might not exactly know the details on how everything works. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to cover all the features in Sales Navigator. I'm only going to cover what's relevant through this integration with Dynamics 365 and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Now, with this integration, we'll be able to move data between applications, which means that we will have to enable and configure this integration in both LinkedIn Sales Navigator and in the Dynamics 365 application. I'll talk about what data can be synchronized a little bit later in this presentation, but with data flowing into Dynamics 365, this gives us more options to perform actions on the data as well. So think about being able to use Power Automate to automate processes, such as setting up alerts, right, when a LinkedIn activity is created in Dynamics 365. And then obviously, then we can report on those LinkedIn activities as well. And obviously, there's a lot more that we can do with that as well. But before we can do this, there are some prerequisites that we need to consider. Microsoft Dynamics 2016 or Dynamics 365 on-premise is not supported, unfortunately. You need to have a Microsoft Relationship Sales subscription for Dynamics 365, or you will need to sign your team up for LinkedIn Sales Navigator Team or LinkedIn Sales Navigator Enterprise. Now, in order to configure Sales Navigator, you need to have a Sales Navigator administrator and a team member seat. The browser that you're using needs to have JavaScript enabled, and you need to disable your pop-up blocker for the Dynamics 365 domain. By default, LinkedIn solutions are not automatically installed, and administrator actually needs to install the solution package before other users can work with them. You can start this installation by navigating to Business Management and then clicking the LinkedIn Sales Navigator button to start the install. And you see that here on my screen as well. So this is going to launch this installation window, and once the installation is done, then users can go back to the previous screen. right? And then you click on LinkedIn Sales Navigator again, and this is going to take you to a screen where you can enable the integration and also turn on photo refresh. Lastly, system administrators can turn on the LinkedIn Sales Navigator controls on forms. Now, these tabs are hidden by default, so admins can enable those or make them visible, I should say. And we also have the ability to add widgets on a form by adding a form control, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Now we need to set up the connection from Sales Navigator to Dynamics 365. Now, in this setup, you can enable write back from Sales Navigator to Dynamics 365. Write back allows users to save information created in Sales Navigator back to Dynamics 365. And I'll discuss the details on this a little bit later in this presentation. After the setup, you need to allow about 24 hours for the system to sync. And once you have successfully connected the Dynamics 365 and Sales Navigator, you will need to set your Sales Navigator CRM settings for the entire organization. And all of those options are accessible from the same page in, obviously, Sales Navigator. After the sync has been configured, you can also configure data validation. When data validation is turned on in Dynamics 365, there's going to be a new option set field, which is called MSDYN_org change status. And the description for that field is not at company flag. So that's being added to the contact entity in Dynamics 365. Now, the values in this field are no feedback, not at company, and ignore. Now, the way it works is that when the current company of a LinkedIn contact doesn't match the account the contact is related to in Dynamics 365, then this new field will be set to not at company. Now, keep in mind that this validation only happens for contacts, right? And also only for contacts related to accounts and contacts related to opportunities that are owned by Sales Navigator users that have CRM Sync enabled. The validation between LinkedIn and Dynamics 365 data, as I previously stated, occurs every 24 hours. Now, besides that option set field being added to the contact entity, it will also be visible on the account org chart, and I'll show you that as well. The system will also have 4 additional views that will be added to Dynamics 365. So those are 4 opportunity views, 2 opportunity views, all opportunities at risk, contact left, my opportunities at risk, contact left, and then we have 2 contact views that are new, all contacts not at company and my contacts not at company. Now, Photo Refresh updates the contact records in Dynamics 365 with the most recent profile picture from LinkedIn. This is obviously also a daily sync. Data validation also helps with the matching of Dynamics 365 records with LinkedIn records. The Dynamics 365 fields that are used to match lead and contact records are, as you can see on the screen, first name, last name, title, company, country, phone number, and email. For the matching for LinkedIn organizations with Dynamics 365 account records, these fields on the account record are used. As you can see, company name, address, street, city, state, province, postal code, website, phone, industry, and number of employees. Now, it's needless to say that obviously the more data users have populated in those fields, the more accurate matches will be found. Users also have the ability to manually match a Dynamics 365 record to a LinkedIn profile. This might be necessary if no match is found, or if there are multiple matches, or if the match is incorrect. Team Link allows users to let them view and search their team's connections. And then we also have Smart Links, which allow users to package and share files and track engagements with those files. So this could be when someone accesses a smart link and reviews a quote. I'll get into details on how this works a little later in this presentation. Now, I wanted to show you how easy it is to connect your Sales Navigator account with Dynamics 365. And the screen is a little old looking. As you can see, it looks a little bit different, but it's still the same premise. So I'm going to go ahead and play this for you guys. So as you can see, there's going to be a Connect to CRM button on that screen that you can just go ahead and click. And once you do that, it's going to ask you, do you want to connect to Salesforce or Dynamics? We're going to click on Dynamics. The only thing you have to put in here is your domain. So it's going to go ahead and put it in there. I can click continue. You can see that the rest of that URL is in there. And then you can just go ahead and log in, put your user account in there, and just hit sign in. And we're going to click yes, and you will see now that we are connected. All right, so let's go into a demonstration now. Let me just pull up my environment here. So I'm going to show you where we can set up that integration. And I'm going to put my dog down here. Okay, so in Dynamics 365, you can see here that you need to navigate to business management. And then here is that LinkedIn Sales Navigator area where we need to click. So you can just click on that. And obviously I already have it set up, but this is where you can turn this on. Right here, you can enable that Sales Navigator integration. You can turn on your photo refresh, and you can see here, enable LinkedIn updates as well. So you got to make sure that, right, CRM sync and data validation obviously must be active for that to work. So that's all you have to do here in Dynamics. Now also, let's take a look at Sales Navigator. I'm going to go here to Sales Navigator. We're going to go into admin. And then you can see I have Account Center here and I have admin settings here. So I'm going to click on admin settings, and you can see here that I have already connected this. I'm going to click on here real quick. So you would click here on connect to CRM. And as you can see, right, this pop-up now comes up here, and then you can click on Microsoft or click on Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics. Again, you put your domain in and then you just click continue, and that's how you can very quickly connect your LinkedIn Sales Navigator with Dynamics 365. Now, you obviously also need to assign some of those licenses. So I'm just going to click on Admin Center. So this is where all of those licenses are. You can see here that I actually have 5 activated, right? Those are all of my licenses in Sales Navigator, and then I can connect them with Dynamics 365. We can see here that Bob is actually not matched in CRM. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that the email address that the user has on their user records in Dynamics 365 is also present in LinkedIn, that they added that email address to their LinkedIn profile, because otherwise it can't find them. So and once you've done that, as you can see, it's activated, and I have the CRM sync turned on here as well. And this is where we can also turn that CRM sync off, right? We can also manage the licenses from here as well, view the profile, etc. So this is where you can do all of that stuff. Now, if I click here on manage licenses, right here we can see, do we want to remove one of those licenses? Do I want to give them a team link extend, a different one, right? So all of that can be done directly from within here. And then you have here groups as well. If you set up groups, you can do that in here. And then here you can see who the system admins are here on the LinkedIn Sales Navigator side. Now, let's talk about the data that's going to be synchronized from one application to the other. As we just saw, the synchronization needs to be set up bidirectional. So let's talk about what is actually being pushed over. I'll start with what will be synced from Dynamics 365 to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So I received several questions about this. I think that a lot of people actually think that as soon as that connection with another person is made on LinkedIn, that data will be pushed to Dynamics 365 as a contact record or lead record. And I also heard people say that all connections are going to be pushed to the Dynamics 365, or that users have the option to choose 10 profiles, and then those are synced to Dynamics 365. So currently none of this is true. And we probably wouldn't want that either, right? Because I have like 3,000 connections on LinkedIn, and I probably don't want all of them to be synchronized over to Dynamics 365, particularly because a lot of them are coworkers, right? And I'm not going to track them as a lead or as a contact in Dynamics 365. Now, let's take a look at synchronization from both perspectives. Now, accounts and leads are saved for all open opportunities whose stage is greater than the stage chosen in the CRM sync preferences. And I'll show you in a second where that is. This stage is actually set by the admin for all users. Again, this is in Sales Navigator. This is going to enable Sales Navigator to automatically deliver updates to users on the most important people and companies. Users will see a CRM button within Sales Navigator for those CRM imported records. Now, clicking this button is going to open the matching record in Dynamics 365. And the CRM button is also going to show up for accounts and leads saved from CRM, as well as accounts and leads that are found and matched in Dynamics 365. So if that link is there, if that profile in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or I should say on LinkedIn, is matched with a record in Dynamics 365, you're going to go ahead and you're going to see that CRM button on that profile in LinkedIn. Now, the sync runs as the integration user account for the connected CRM. Now, users have the ability to send emails and messages from Sales Navigator to LinkedIn contacts. Through the integration, they can perform those actions from LinkedIn Sales Navigator or from within Dynamics 365. You're going to see a copy to CRM button or checkbox or whatever you want to call it on that message window, which is going to obviously determine if that activity is going to be created in Dynamics 365. Currently, when a LinkedIn contact responds to an email or a message, an activity in Dynamics 365 is not created. But this is something that's on the roadmap, so hopefully we'll get to that soon. Users also have the ability to create notes in Sales Navigator, and you're going to see a similar copy to CRM button available on the note. Now, keep in mind that notes that are created or updated in Dynamics 365 are not going to synchronize back to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So that's just one directional, as you can see on the slide as well. And phone calls can be made directly from the Sales Navigator mobile app. When the call ends, you're going to see a pop-up window that's going to be shown, and it's going to ask the user if they want to save a phone call record in Sales Navigator. Now, this pop-up will also have that sync to CRM or save to CRM slider on the bottom. And if this is set to yes, then again, an activity is going to be created in Dynamics 365. Now, you got to keep in mind that the activity will only be tracked against the correct Dynamics 365 record if Sales Navigator was actually able to find or match the person that was called, right, with that record in Dynamics 365. Now, Smart Links replaced Point Drive in Sales Navigator back in May of 2020. And if you're not familiar with this feature, it actually allows Sales Navigator users to share content. So these could be files and documents, right, with outside people, right, customers, prospects, etc. So when this content is then accessed by your prospects or by your customer, the user is going to receive a notification email, and that view of, right, those documents will also be visible on the contact record in Dynamics 365. That's actually going to show as a Point Drive presentation viewed activity. Users can create smart links outside of Sales Navigator as well, right? Which means that you can go ahead and also send them by email, or you can send them in a chat, or however you want to do that. But obviously, you can also send those smart links through a LinkedIn message as well. Users can create a new smart link from within the context of an email or a message by clicking the link icon in the bottom left side of the screen. Now, keep in mind that smart links are available for both the team and enterprise licenses. However, you're still going to need an enterprise license for that CRM right back. LinkedIn Sales Navigator also allows users to create a contact record in Dynamics 365 from a LinkedIn profile. So this means no more copying and pasting data from Sales Navigator to Dynamics 365. So I really love this feature. I think this is amazing. Before you can enable this functionality, you're going to need to make sure that CRM Sync again is enabled, and that you have that setting where it says auto sync all seat holders with CRM. You got to make sure that's set to yes. So I showed this earlier, right? You can do this by going to admin settings and then clicking that, making sure that that's set correctly. Besides enabling contact creation, admins can require an email address to be mandatory in order to create the contact in Dynamics 365, right? Maybe you don't want to save contact records unless you have an email address. So this is how you can set that. Lastly, there's going to be the ability to select the lead source value that should be associated to contacts created from Sales Navigator. This is a field that is looking at the lead source code fields in Dynamics 365. So any values that you have configured in that option set are going to show up here. And again, I'll show you that a little bit later in the demo as well. Users can create a contact from Sales Navigator by opening a LinkedIn profile in, obviously, Sales Navigator, right? And then you're going to see an ellipse on that red-hand side. You can see that ellipse right over here. And when you click that, you're going to be able to see that Add Contact to CRM option. So obviously, when you click this button, there's going to be a duplication check first that's going to run on the Dynamics 365 contact records. And if a duplicate is found, the user can simply click on the match button. If there is not a duplicate record in Dynamics 365, then you can just go ahead and create that contact record by completing the fields in Sales Navigator. The fields that are going to be available to the user when they create a contact from Sales Navigator, you can see that on the screen here. You can see here I have an account field, so I can link it to an existing account in Dynamics 365. As soon as I pick that, then I'm going to be able to pick an opportunity that are related to the account that I picked in that account field. And then once I pick an opportunity, I'm going to be able to actually select a stakeholder role and associate that to the opportunity. Now, if I don't want to do that, if I just, I don't want to associate an opportunity or a stakeholder role, that's fine as well. So the actual contact fields, as you can see here, is first name, which will be pre-populated by Sales Navigator, right, coming from that profile. Then a last name, as well. Then we have job title. Then we have country. All of those are going to be pre-populated by Sales Navigator. And then obviously, lastly, we'll also have that email field. And again, whether or not that's required depends on our configuration. And lastly, phone number. Users can also save the LinkedIn profile as a lead in Sales Navigator. And that's that checkbox that you see here in the left bottom. So besides being able to view LinkedIn data, users will also be able to access LinkedIn functionality directly from Dynamics 365. So think about the ability to send an email or a message or sending an introduction request to one of your LinkedIn contacts. Enabling this integration will add a tab with these widgets to several forms in Dynamics 365. But we're also going to be able to configure these widgets directly on a form if that's something that you want to do. Now, these controls can be added to the lead, to the contact, account, and the opportunity forms. These configurations can be done in the classic form editor. Unfortunately, it doesn't work yet in the new editor. So what you need to do, for example, for a contact is you can drag the last name field on the form, then you go to controls, and then you click add control. So this is kind of what that looks like, right? You drag that field on there, and then you add that control. So let's again go into a live demo. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up my instance again. So I'm going to go back to admin home and to admin settings. And this is really where most of your configuration is going to take place, right? If I scroll down here you can auto-save leads, contacts, and accounts from, right, data imported from CRM into LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So you can see here, you can select what you want to auto-save, right? All CRM contacts associated with users owned open opportunities, all CRM leads and contacts owned by user, all CRM contacts associated with users owned account, right? This is just something that you can set up. Obviously, you can select whatever you want to do. So that's for leads. And then for accounts, again, we have all CRM accounts associated with the user's owned open opportunities and or all CRM accounts owned by the user. Then we have the item that I was talking about earlier, right? When is the account or the contact that you're working on an opportunity for, when is that going to show up in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, right? Accounts and leads will be automatically imported to Sales Navigator for all open opportunities past this stage, right? This is where you can select which stage that should be. Then we have, again, data exported to CRM. Do you want to turn on that CRM data validation, what I talked about earlier, right? This is where you can turn that on. And we saw earlier that you need to also turn that on in Dynamics 365, right? Two places where you need to turn that on. Again, here is the ability to create contacts. So we'll go into a profile in Sales Navigator, and then we're going to be able to create a contact. Do we want to do that? This is where you can turn that on. Then we have the lead source value that should be associated to contacts that are a result of that creation, contact creation, right? And what is the lead source value that should be associated to those, right? This is what we saw earlier. This is actually a field, like I said earlier, in the contact record, which is called lead source, this guy. You can see here that I have Sales Navigator and other as the options. And again, if I go back here to admin settings, right? That's what I have in that field. So if you add values to it, you will see them in here as well. And then do you require an email address when creating those contacts for Sales Navigator? Do you want to log smart links, those views? Do you want to see that in Dynamics 365? If so, then turn that on. So all of those settings, most of those settings are directly here in admin settings. Then there's some additional information here as well under features. If you click here on email and messaging, you can see here you can add disclosure message, and you can do a customized block copy in here as well. And team link, right? You can turn that on from here as well. And then smart links, do you want to turn it on? Yes or no? And then you can actually have your company privacy policy in here as well. Now, let's take a look at the actual functionality. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to a contact record. You can see that right over here. And I want to show you those tabs in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So if you click on here, right, we can see here the LinkedIn member profile. So this is anything related to Angel. You see here the LinkedIn account profile. This is wherever I have his contact or his account linked with, and I can see that here on the profile. I actually have that linked with RSM. And if that's incorrect, right, if I say that's not the right account, then I can just go ahead and change that. I'll show you that in a second. And then we have LinkedIn email. So let's first start with the LinkedIn member profile. So you can see here, I have some general information about Angel, right? If this is not the right match, I can click here on not the right person, and then I can select somebody else, right? I can say, maybe it's this particular guy, right? And you can see here there's other people that are now coming up. If you did find the right person, you can just click match, and then, right, the profile is then matched with this Dynamics 365 record. When you click on icebreakers, this is really showing you the connections that you as a user have in common with Angel, right? So this is the first icebreaker, these connections. If I click here on this icon, it's going to show me that we have another thing in common. We both worked at RSM. And then if I click on it again, you're going to be able to see the groups that we are both in. So there's 3 mutual groups that we are in, right, that we can use as a conversation starter. Then if I click on more, I can take a look at any related leads. I don't have anything for that, as you can see right now, right? Those are people that are similar to him. That could be another lead for me, so we don't see that right now. But I also have the Get Introduced option here, and this is going to show me all of these folks that we have in common, what the 3 of us have in common as well. Or I shouldn't say the 3 of us, I should say what those guys have in common with, in this particular case, Angel. So we can see here Kevin has nothing in common with him, and you can see Chris has a lot in common with Angel because they both worked at RSM, and they are in 2 groups together. So I'm probably going to ask him. So what I can do here is I can ask for an introduction, and I can just type that message to Chris over here. And then again, if I wanted to, I can copy this message to CRM, but that means that I would need to have Chris in my CRM, obviously, as a contact record or a lead record. So that's what you can do over here. Then the email messages is I can go ahead and send a message to Angel. Did you look at my quotes yet? I can send that, and I can copy that to Dynamics 365. So this is going to send this to Angel through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And now if I go back to my main page and I look at my timeline, you can see here that that is now an activity in Dynamics 365. Now you also see here that I had a smart link that I sent to Angel that was actually viewed by him. And this is what I was talking about. This is that smart links content viewed from me, right? It was my content. And now I can see that activity in Dynamics 365. Now let's take a look in Sales Navigator. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to go to Sales Navigator. Here are all of my alerts. I can see all of my accounts in here. And if you click here on lists, I'm going to be able to see my auto-generated list with all of my CRM leads and contacts, right? So this is coming from CRM, obviously. I'm going to go back here to home, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Angel Castellar. This is that CRM button that I was talking about. So if I click on this, that's just going to open his record, his contact record that his profile is matched with. So I'm not going to wait for that to open. It's taking too long. You can see some additional information on here as well, right? I have some notes here, etc. What I can do from here is, right, I can view in CRM. I can look at the notes here. So this is what I was talking about earlier. I can add a note from here, and this can then copy to Dynamics 365. The private and public, this has nothing to do with Dynamics 365. This is in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So if you have a team license, for example, or higher, right, you can make this a public note so that others on your team are going to be able to see that note as well. But this is how you can, again, copy that note to Dynamics 365, to Angel's record from here. Well, let's just cancel out of that. And then let's take a look. Let me go back to the home page, and let me show you how we can create a contact record in Dynamics 365. So you're going to go and open a record here in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And here you can see that I can just click to add that record to Dynamics 365. So it just did that check to make sure that this is not already a contact record in Dynamics 365. And as you can see, it's pulling up that record, that account record that Teresa is linked to. So I can just go ahead and select that. And yes, this is an account record in Dynamics 365. And now, since I actually selected an account record, I can select an opportunity. And I don't have any, so that's not going to work. But once I've done that, then I can select a stakeholder role, and that will create that stakeholder in my Dynamics 365 environment as well. So then I can just go ahead and add this contact information. I can put the email information in here, the phone call record, and that will create that contact record in Dynamics 365, and it will match the profile of LinkedIn in here as well. Now let's take a look how we can put that widget on the form. You can see here I have my last name field that I just dragged on there, and you want to make sure that you're not displaying that label on the form. I'm going to go to Controls, and then I can just pick, let's see here, where's my LinkedIn, right? My LinkedIn account or lead member profile. So you can put this on a lead record or a contact record. And then the account is obviously for an account record. So you're just going to go ahead and click Add. You can go ahead and select, right? Where do you want to use this? You see that phone and tablet does not work. And then you can just configure this to show, right? What do I want to show here? Top card, news. You saw that earlier, right? Those icebreakers. Then you click OK. And then you will see that widget on that form. Now, real quick, let's take a look at that not at company flag field. This is that field that was added, right, through that synchronization. So you can see here, it says that he is not at this company. I have him, you saw that earlier, right? If I click here on LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I have him at RSM, but that's incorrect. So the system, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, is telling me that right now. And the other way that you can see that, we talked about that, right? There's going to be different views in here. Not sure if I have enabled them, right? All contacts, not a company. My contacts, not a company. So I can look there. But you can also go ahead and open the org chart that that person belongs to. Let me give it a second here. And you will see a big red dot here, right? I can click on that. And now it's telling me, please verify those contact details. Is that person still with that org? If it's not, then you can link him to a different account directly from within here. All right. So just a few more slides I have to share with you guys. And this is a very important one. This is the pricing slide. So please keep in mind that your organization needs to have a Microsoft Enterprise agreement in order to purchase the relationship sales licenses, and there is going to be a 10-seat minimum. So if you don't have a Microsoft Enterprise agreement, then as you can see here, you can purchase LinkedIn Sales Navigator separately as well. Well, you can't see that, it's not on the slide, but you can. And the difference really with buying Microsoft Relationship Sales versus buying it separately is really that pricing component, right? It's going to be cheaper if you can purchase that LinkedIn Sales Navigator and Dynamics 365 if you can purchase them together, obviously. This is another, I think, interesting slide, right? This is showing you some of that Sales Navigator standalone pricing. You can see here the professional $64.99 per month. You have to go to the website. You can see that down there. Compare https business.linkedin.com sales/solutions compare plans. Take a look at that because this updates all the time. But I just wanted to go ahead and give you some of this pricing. The last time I heard about enterprise pricing, it was about $1,600 annually with a 10-seat minimum for enterprise seats. So keep that in mind as well. And there's no minimum for professional and for team licenses. So here you can see some of those, the functionality that comes with each individual license as well, which can also be found, as you can see here on this particular link. So check that out as well. Thank you guys again so much for joining me at this session. And hopefully we'll see you guys again next year at the next Scottish Summit. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.